This is an ACU Centre for Liturgy podcast. Speaking of liturgy. Sacred spaces for prayer and worship provide us with an opportunity to sense something that is sometimes difficult to explain. Speaking of liturgy, Richard Vosko, award-winning liturgical designer and consultant, whose work is well known internationally, describes the relationship between churches and the people who worship in them, and how buildings are symbols of communal faith in action.
Where we pray shapes our common prayer. How we pray together shapes the way our faith community acts in the broader society. In this podcast about the relationship between liturgy and architecture, I will first consider why space matters. Setting aside a space for prayer and worship offers an opportunity to sense something often unexplainable. In such a space, our imaginations come alive. We see things differently. We make unlikely connections. Our lives are touched and transformed by what may be called holy dreams of peace and harmony in a troubled world. Biblical stories speak of natural spaces, deserts, streams, and mountains where exposure to holiness happens, where calculated aspirations are challenged, and where promises of hope are made. In this talk, I'm focusing on the built environment for worship in the Catholic Christian tradition, chapels, churches, and cathedrals. I examine how a place of worship reflects who the community is and how it responds to the gospel message. Early on, Christians worshiped in their homes. Later, they constructed buildings to be gathering places for the people of God, more so than houses for God. Why? Each Christian was considered a temple, a living stone. In the long history of Christian architecture, diverse building styles emerged to serve worshiping communities in every part of the world. These indigenous or regional forms reflected and respected local cultures and their traditions. No one building style was ever officially endorsed as more or less suitable for the Catholic liturgy. Yet today, a nostalgic agenda has emerged. It gravitates toward church architectural styles derived from standardized forms found in different times and different places. They may have little to do with local culture or the societal concerns of the community. For example, building a neo-Gothic church in the Northern Territory steeped in Aboriginal culture makes little sense. Church edifices constructed long ago often preserve the heritage of a particular peoples. However, it is important to reconfigure them in a sensitive way to accommodate the more communal characteristics of worship today. Houses for worship are reflections of the identity of the current congregation. They are symbols of communal faith in action. They affirm and sustain the purpose or ministry of the particular community that uses them. The building reminds the assembly of who they are and what good they are doing in the larger community. In this sense, the space itself is a sacramental minister. It continues to nourish the people of God, who are also a sacrament. So, how does a church building act as a sacramental minister? How does it declare theological and sociological connections? How does it actually embody and reflect the mission of the community to help those who live on the fringes of society and others whose humanity is disregarded? I wonder if the following questions might help us imagine how changes in our liturgical practices and in our places of worship might help us understand the analogous link between the two. Remember, the word church in these questions refers to both the building and the congregation. Number 1. Do our churches trigger our imaginations to open up endless possibilities for inclusivity? Do the lyrics in the songs, the words in the prayers, the various liturgical ministries represent and honor people from racial and ethnic backgrounds, as well as those who speak different languages? Number 2. Do our works of art evoke ways to empathize with both the joys and severities of life? Do the paintings, sculptures, icons, weavings challenge the assembly to find new ways to serve people without power? Do they promote an awareness of the beauty and the blessings that creation provides for all people, wealthy or poor? Number 3. Is our church hospitable? Does it allow persons with different physical, visual, acoustical abilities to participate in the liturgy? Is there access to all parts of the worship space? The area for the choir and musicians, the altar table, the ambo, the tabernacle? And is there a friendly space for little children who can be restless at times? Number 4. Is the interior arrangement of the seats and furnishings in our houses of worship all embracing? Or does it divide the assembly according to power, rank, or liturgical roles? Does the hidden dimension of polarization exist in our church building? If so, how does the church express its advocacy for unity, dignity, and justice for all peoples beyond the walls of the church? Number 5. During worship, are we seated in fixed rows facing the altar and ambo located remotely at one end of the church? Studies show that a concentric or choral arrangement of benches or chairs will foster more active conscious participation in the liturgy. Might we then consider a plan that places all the required liturgical furniture in the midst of the assembly? That arrangement creates an environment that declares all members of the assembly are celebrants of the liturgy and not passive spectators. Number 6. Finally, is our church ecologically sensitive, environmentally friendly, and energy efficient? Pope Francis used the all-encompassing term integral ecology. It implies that human beings are responsible for caring for one another while we also protect the planet, plants, forests, air, and water. The celebration of sacramental rites in our church buildings is synonymous with feeding the hungry, housing the homeless, reconciling differences, counseling the denigrated, and protecting the environment. Liturgical action is the same as social action. When Jesus told his followers, "Do this in memory of me," he was not instructing them how to say Mass, but to memorialize, to remember the way he treated people who were sinners, sick, hungry, homeless, lonely, assaulted, and oppressed. In our time, whenever we gather to bless and thank God and to pray for peace, good health, and harmony, we are obliged to search for new ways to help others. Some churches set aside spaces dedicated to social outreach. Our acts of worship bear no fruit if they do not strengthen our social action. Where we worship shapes our prayer. How we pray shapes how we serve the larger community. Thank you.
That was Richard Vosko discussing the relationship between churches and the people who worship in them and how liturgical space matters. The ACU Centre for Liturgy, which provides pastoral formation in liturgy across Australia and beyond, is pleased to provide this podcast, Speaking of Liturgy.